Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids, coming to you from the beautiful historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so wicked happy and so honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Here at Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful. It's to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. Every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. And today, boy, oh boy, are we jamming. We have a very special episode lined up for you. First, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome Grammy Award-winning musician and beloved children's author, Ziggy Marley. He's on the show to celebrate his brand new picture book, Pajammin, inspired by his father's iconic song, Jammin'. It's a joyful, rhythmic bedtime adventure that families everywhere are going to love. Later in the show, we'll be joined by the fantastic Dr. Melvina Noel, author of the heartwarming picture book, Mama's Library Summers. Her book beautifully honors the power of books, the love between a mother and child, and the magic of discovering the world through reading, especially during those long, hot summer days. So whether you're curled up on the couch, riding in the car, or flipping pancakes in your pajamas, get ready for inspiration, music, and stories that will make your heart smile. Join us right now from beautiful Los Angeles, California. Our guest is here today to celebrate his beautiful picture book. It's called Pajammin. Please welcome to the show, Ziggy Marley. Hey, Ziggy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you on. Pajammin, this book was inspired by your dad's music. Am I right?
Yeah, musically speaking. Yeah. Like the rhythm and the energy, you know?
Yeah. Tell me about the book. Who are we going to meet in the book?
You meet a family and friends and a dog and pillows and, you know, all type of things. Yeah, it's about getting together. A pajamin is a different thing than a regular party. It's more, you know, pajamas fits differently. So you feel more free, more loose. And it's about kind of like leaving the outside world outside and just creating your own world in your own environment, having fun and enjoying each other.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a fun time. I remember when my kids were young, we would just love to kind of have that pajamin feeling going on. Put on some music, play, wrestle, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, you've been creating books and also music for kids. Is that because you just love being a dad?
Yeah. I mean, I love being a dad. I love kids. My youngest is 9 now, and they inspire me. They keep me young. They keep me my imagination going. I'm not jaded by my age, so it's like I still have that youthful mindset that I can tap into, and they are a part of that. And just watching them and having the experiences with them, it's inspiring, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. My kids are a little bit older now, 29 and 32. But their dogs keep me young. We don't have any grandkids yet, but we have grand dogs.
Yeah. That works too. Too.
Yeah. Hey, you know, your dad was such an icon, but if you haven't figured it out, we're talking to Bob Marley's son, Ziggy Marley. He was such an icon. What does it mean to you to carry his traditions on through your music and through a book like Pajammin?
Well, I mean, I'm just being me. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't me, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm just being myself. That's all I can be, and that's what it really means, accepting who I am, you know, and just being me. It's a part of who I am. I don't think, I mean, I could try and give like some kind of explanation, but really and truly, when I think about it right now, I'm just being me, and that's what it is. I don't think about tradition. I don't think about legacy. I don't think about any of those things. I just be myself.
All right.
And then the world see what it sees and, you know, decipher it how they want to decipher it, you know.
Well, going along with that, you being you, it's, I absolutely understand that, but I also understand in children's books, I was really surprised to learn that with most children's books, authors have very little contact with their illustrators. Was that the case with you, and was it difficult to kind of let somebody else tell part of the story?
Well, in 2025, it gives us a great opportunity to reach out to people who's not in our vicinity in terms of artwork. So I feel like with that opportunity, you take that opportunity and you meet people from, Europe, from Brazil, you check art from all over, and then you choose which one feels the best. So it really doesn't matter if I met them in person, but I'm communicating with them about the art and how I feel about it, But yeah, we never meet in person. But nowadays I've never met you in person, but we're having a good conversation.
Exactly, so, yeah.
It works. It works now. It kind of works. We kind of accept the technology and understand it, and just let's work with it, because we won't be able to, without that, we wouldn't be able to get a different perspective from all across the world, and choose one,
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah. That's, I just love that attitude of, hey, we're here and you're there, I'm here, and we're getting together and let's see if we can get along.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, it can work. It can work. As long as you can make it work, it will work,
Yeah. Now, one of the things I learned in my research is that you are the dad of 7 kids. That was my goal. But then after my second kid came, my wife's like, no, I'm done. I'm not doing any more of that. Was it any kind of story time moment that really stands out when you were sitting down and reading to your kids or singing to your kids?
Yeah, well, in my, growing up myself, it's kind of a tradition. Growing up, it was storytelling. It wasn't reading books, but when I was growing up in Jamaica, my grand aunt would tell us stories, old folk tales, some scary, but very funny. We have a character named Anansi, who's this spider, and he's very mischievous. So we used to hear stories about him. And when I had kids, my younger kids actually, because my older kids are in their 30s now, and with my younger ones, with the help of my wife, I kind of got into reading with them. Because I never grew up anybody reading to me. It wasn't just telling stories with your mouth.
Right.
But with my wife and these younger kids, I got into reading, and they love reading, and reading is so good for the kids, and the fact that, especially now, they still love reading, and they don't need I'm lucky because they can do without an iPhone or an iPad or something. They have a book, and they want to have a book because I started reading with them from they were young. And they like it, you know what I'm saying? It's not something that we force. And, you read to them and them start like it, and then they take up the habit as well. So it's by example. And, I love reading them. I'm reading The Giving Tree, which is one of my favorite books that I used to read. And it even sometimes funny because when I read to them, I was learning too from the kids' book, as an adult. So I was also into it too, so yeah, it was fun. It's funny.
Yeah. I had so many memories of my kids and me sitting down. I made a living performing educational magic shows at schools around the country for 35 plus years. And I remember coming home after driving from Philadelphia back home to Boston, and my kids, I have a speech impediment. It was bad when I was a kid, but it comes out every once in a while now. But my kids, they would know it. And when I'd come home from those long road trips, they'd say, Poppy, come down, sit down, read us a book. And then they'd pull out Dr. Seuss' Fox and Socks. And those are the letters that I would have trouble with. And it took me a while to figure out why they were doing it. But it's like, this is intentional.
That's kids, right? It's still fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Kids.
One of the things I've great memories. I've been a big fan of your music for an awfully long time. And you've been in the industry now for decades. Most artists, my daughter has a degree in music business management, and she chose that instead of being a performer because she said to me, I want to have a long shelf life. Most artists don't have that long shelf life. How do you think you've been able to, stay relevant and stay in the spotlight for so long?
With me, it's always new. It never gets old with me. It never gets old. It's always new, and I'm always excited about it. Creativity and creating, it teaches you something else about the world. And the only reason why I keep doing it is because I keep creating. And when I create, it's a very I feel connected to the universe in a way. I'm not, because I don't create I don't sit down and think about creating. Creativity comes to me and then I elaborate on that creativity.
Wow.
And so it just feels really good. And it's always, and my mind is so open. I'm always evolving. I'm always growing. I'm always learning. I never stop. It doesn't stop. I'm still evolving. My mind is still evolving. I haven't reached a place where, all right, this is it and this is what it is and it's not going to change. No, I'll keep an open mind. And I don't know. I don't know. It's just those. It's always new to me. Like every day is a new day.
As you're talking, it reminds me of a book that I read. I think it's called Big Magic, and basically the author is talking about that creativity doesn't necessarily come from us, but it comes to us.
Yeah.
And the most creative people are the people who are just open for those ideas. Yeah. And the idea lands and you either act on it, or if you don't, the idea goes somewhere else.
That's true. That has happened. But you know what? When that happened, I appreciate that I had the experience. Like, not every creativity have to be a product or a song or a book. Some stuff, you can just experience it and enjoy it. You know?
That's cool. I have to tell you, I have to be honest, I kind of got in trouble with your sister.
Yeah.
Sedalia came on the podcast to celebrate her book a couple of years ago. Yeah. And I kept telling her how much of a fan I was of your music and this memory and that memory at a show. And she got frustrated. And she said, I was there too. I was the melody maker. I was on stage. And I apologize. But Sedalia, I remember now. I will never forget that you were part of the Melody Makers.
Yeah, man. You should need some credit. Give her some credit. Man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, now that Pajammin is out there in the world and you've created this book, are you intending to create more kids' books?
Well, I've created quite a few before this one. And so this is like my 5th kids' book.
All right.
But as I said, I have no idea. I'm not planning on it. I didn't plan on this.
Anything. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't plan on that. So I'm not planning anything right now. I'm enjoying this. I'm making some music in the studio. I'm doing a lot of stuff going on. So I'm good. I
know you're on tour, or you will be on tour soon. How many cities, countries?
We're doing a tour in the States in the fall with Burning Spear, who is a legendary reggae musician. He's like a father figure to me in my father's generation. So it's a real honor and pleasure and privilege to be doing this with him. It's like it's the same book, but it's like the beginning and the middle, and so it's cool. It's very cool. So I'm looking forward to that. We're doing the States. All over East, Middle, West Coast. Yeah. It's going to be a good one.
Well, I know you're coming here to Boston in September, so we're going to do our best to try to get up there and see.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Tell me, one of the things I love to ask authors is what kind of conversations do you think families can have as they're reading Pajammin together?
As they read Pajammin? What kind of conversation them can have? I mean, Pajammin full of activities, so I think the activities will dictate the conversations. There's a game in it that I mentioned called Hot or Cold that my father used to play with us. We never have a lot of conversation. We just play the game. You know what I'm saying? So, I think play the games. Play the games. I don't think I'm not sure what kind of conversation. Is it bedtime yet? No, it's not bedtime. Keep going. I don't know. Can we jump on the bed? Can we jump on the couch? You know, it's gonna be fun. Whatever it is, it's gonna be fun conversations. Because it's just let's have fun and get together and you know, isn't this fun? It's gonna be a conversation. Yes, it's fun. Let's do it again. It's gonna be a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, can we hit the pots and the pans and make music with them? Yes, that's a conversation. Of course you can. It's a pajammin. You can do whatever you like. Come on, let's go. Have fun.
That's cool.
Those are the conversations.
Well, we love that. Boy, do you ever take the time to sit and think about the fact that, you know, I know you have thousands, millions of people have come out and seen you live on stage, but as an author of kids' books, you have a different audience and you don't get to see them. Do you ever think about the fact that, hey, there are thousands of families snuggled up on the couch together reading my books?
Yeah, no, but I mean, we do kids show sometimes, and then I did some readings. So we try. Yeah, it's true though, you know. I remember when I had the Family Time album, my first Family Time album, we did a lot of kids show, and I like that. The kids show, them was so great. And even during the pandemic, we did like a kids show at a drive-in. The kids came with the family in the cars. So I do like to be with, you know, the kids and the family. And even in some of my other regular shows, families bring their kids to those shows. That's a part of it. But I think I could do more specifically kids shows, especially since it's been a while since I have done any. But the reading, I love reading to kids. That was so much fun, and they had so much fun. We did a public reading, so yeah. It is a bit of a bummer that, you know, we don't get out as much. Mm-hmm. And I would like to do that more. Yeah.
It must be very much a different energy when you're reading the books as opposed to being in a stadium playing your music. Yeah,
it's a different energy. It's a closer energy. It's a more like I don't know. It's a more vulnerable too. You know, it's a more vulnerable energy. But that's the openness you gotta have.
Yeah.
With that. No, I enjoy it though. I enjoy it, and you know, and the family. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of love energy. It's a lot of feel good energy. And the kids I'm really into it, you know. So I like that.
That's awesome.
And I carry my young kids too with me, so it's you know, one big family.
Yeah. Now, when you're at your kids' show, when you bring your young kids, do they come out on stage with you and perform?
Yeah, they have before. I mean, the older ones always, well, I have old ones, 30s and late 20s. But the last batch, let's put it that way. The last batch, the oldest now is in college. One is getting ready to go to college. One is 40 and one is 9. And so the 9-year-old is the youngest one. The 14-year-old is getting like not too much into it anymore. But the 9-year-old is still into it. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they go through that phase. It's like, oh, Dad's a performer. I love this. This is really cool. Now I'm a teenager. Don't come around, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to share a memory I had back when I started performing as Jedley the Clown. I was doing shows back in 1985, and I was doing a show. The Boston Public Schools had this big family event, and I came out and I did my show, and it was great. And at the end of the show, the people called for an encore, and I had nothing. I had no. It had never,
magic. It was magic.
There was. I'm like, I can't repeat the magic trick. So I just went over and I just turned on Tomorrow People.
Oh yeah.
And I just started dancing, and this little 3-year-old came out of the audience and came up on stage and started dancing with me. Mm-hmm. And it was the cutest thing, and she absolutely took over the crowd, and they loved watching her, and eventually everybody else got up, and they were all dancing around. Right, it was so cool.
Yeah. You gotta leave at least one back, you know, just in case.
Well, I learned. I certainly learned. That's been my career. I just learned by all the mistakes I made.
No, that's how we learn. That's how we learn in life, right? Yeah. That's
Absolutely. Right. Hey, is there anything you've written books, you write music? I was really delightfully surprised. One of my favorite artists is Carlos Vives, and his last album, it just came on, and I go, that's Ziggy collaborating with them. That's so cool. Are there any artists that you're hoping to collaborate with, or is there anything new that you hope to do?
I don't know. I don't think about the artist so much. I think, I mean, I love music. I love artists. But I'm a very shy person. I'm a little shy. So even if I might like somebody, I don't want to ask anybody anything. You know, I'm just chill. And if it comes true, it comes true. But no, I mean, book, music, visual. I want to get into either TV or film with some creativity. I feel like I want, it's not even much, I think I want to be behind, like, creating something. Like, you know, but visual creation now. I think I want to do some of that, you know? Because I'm in Hollywood here, so I might as well give it a shot.
If there's a parent out there who's listening who has a kid that's into music or creativity or writing, do you have any advice for that parent to help really foster their kids' creativity?
Yeah, well, I mean, respect is really respecting and understanding that the kids are going to be who they are and is who they are. We can guide them to a path for the foundation of who they are, but the other stuff, we have to allow them that space to create and to be free while balancing that with some realistic foundations. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, if a kid really is like that, then I think the kid will be. Because I wanted to tell them not, you know, get the kids outside, get your imagination working without too much input from, you know, the like the screens and stuff like that. But I think a child who is already in that vein is already like that. They don't need that instructions or that advice. So it's just them really need support, freedom. So they need that support from the parent. Because, you know, I mean, it's so much pressure on the kids today. You know, school, you got to get great grades. You got to go to a good college. You got to you got to get a job. You got to do all, and it starts from they're young. They got to be great at sports. They got to they got to get the gold medal. So much pressure on kids right now to like be great at everything. You know what I mean? So I think let's take off some of the pressure off of the children and let them be children. You know, and yeah, relax a little bit, mommy and dad. Relax a little bit. Take it easy.
I love that. I think that's fantastic advice. Hey, Ziggy, where can we go to find out more about Pajammin, find out more about your music, your tour, and everything Ziggy Marley?
Yeah, you know, ZiggyMarley.com, social media, Instagram. I deal with that personally. Yeah, and then if you can make it to a show or whatever, and then you can get a good understanding, you know.
Yeah, awesome. We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of Pajammin. Our guest has been Ziggy Marley. Hey, Ziggy, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Enough love. Thank you.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Virginia. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Mama's Library Summers. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Melvina Noel. Hey, Dr. Melvina, how are you?
I'm absolutely fine. And how about you?
I am I have to be honest. I'm melting here in Boston. It's, the weather here has been so crazy. About a week ago, we had 103 on Monday, 95 on Tuesday, and 63 on Wednesday. But now we're back into the sweltering weather right now.
Oh my God! Here, when it gets 90, I'm like, okay, I can't leave the house. And you're talking about 103. How does this work?
Yeah, it was not fun.
Of course not.
But something that would be fun is curling up on the couch and pulling out Mama's Library Summers to read with our kids.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me, this is based on your mom. Am I right about that?
Absolutely, yes.
Tell me about her, please.
Okay. Yeah, she's no longer with us, but so she used to take us to the library during the summers. The main reason that we would go is because during the time that I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, we didn't have Black history in the schools. So she wanted to make sure to get that covered. So during the summer, she would drive, my sister and I, who was 3 years younger, she would drive us to the library, and she would wait out in the car. The funny thing, my mother was so shy. So she wouldn't go in the library with us. And so she'd be sitting out there, air conditioning on. We know how she did that. Air conditioning on, air conditioning off, and we're in the library. So the goal was two things. It had to be about Black people. You couldn't, that was one rule. And the other one, you had to max out on the books. So we could check out 10 books a piece at that time. That means 20 books, and they're all about Black people. So we'd go in and remember, these weren't really children's books. We weren't in the children's section. So some of them were pretty hard. So we check out the books, come back outside, and sometimes my mother wasn't too happy as we see in the book. We're like, don't you remember I'm sitting out here in the car? Because sometimes it would take longer than a few minutes to get that many books, especially as the summer went on or another summer, because the other rule was no repeats. Don't bring any books home that we've already read. So it got harder and harder to do that. And so she was sitting out there longer and longer. So in the book, I talk about that. And we go through the process, but when we got home, to me, the most special part, when we got home, but in riding home, we're talking about reading with books, she would have us read the back of the book or the insert so we'd know she could hear what was going on. So we were actually having a discussion before we even read the book with my mother while she was driving us back home. And then when we got home, when we got settled down, we'd go into the bedroom, and my mother would sit in her reading chair, and I might be on the bed, and my sister on the floor. And we'd spread out all 20 books and we'd go, okay, go. And we'd grab one book. Each person would get one book. And then we would just read. It could be a half an hour, an hour. And, then through the weeks we'd reading. But then we would have discussions. And whoever gave the best reasoning and logic and proving their book or whatever book we read, that person would get an extra slice of sweet potato pie. My mother was a baker. So we'd have sweet potato pie. So you would get an extra slice. So this was a competition also about food, right?
Yeah.
And the great thing about this book is it has a little bit of history in it too, because when you're reading a book, you get so involved that if somebody tapped you on the shoulder, you jump. At least I do. I'm in that book. I'm no longer in present moment. So there's a part in the book where I'm reading a book about Martin Luther King, and I have a dream speech, and I'm there. And what the illustrator did, Daria Peoples, the illustrator, shout out to her. She did it really good that I'm literally there at the speech when she shows the picture of it. And Dr. King is there, and I'm saying, I have a dream. And so she does it. And two other instances, we talk about history, or the history part. I'm reading that kind of a book. She shows that I'm actually there. I'm actually running through the woods with Harriet Tubman. So I love the way she does that. And so, by the end of the summer, we're sad. We're sad because now the book's over, we're going back to school. And my mother goes, don't worry, summer will be here again, and we'll start all over. Because, during the school year, you didn't have time. You're doing your homework and all of that. So she didn't have time to make sure we're getting those kinds of books.
It was a different curriculum from the summer.
Yes. Yes.
Your story about being in the book, and especially when you mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and that I Have a Dream speech, a few years back, we've hosted international kids in our home for many years. And one of the first was a young medical student from Italy. And she came and lived with us. She was with us for about 3 months. And my daughter and I were going out on tour to perform. And we were going to be performing a number of shows in the Northern Virginia area. And so we took a trip over to D.C. And it was right around the anniversary. They're having a big anniversary celebration of Dr. King's speech, and I think it was the day before that ceremony, and we were on the steps near the podium where the podium was, and I remember being there with this young Italian student and talking about that history, and what a neat memory you triggered in me. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for sharing. Really, oh my goodness, you were there.
Well, I wasn't there in the 60s, but I was.
The place, the area.
I was. I do have very fond memories of listening to the speech with my dad, and my dad talking about, hey, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Yes.
Tell me, one of the things we've heard here on the podcast is the fact that books are more and more becoming diverse, and so there are more kids from different backgrounds being represented in books, and that's a good thing, but we're still not where we should be. I imagine back in the 50s and 60s, it must have been very difficult to find books about either children's books or adult books about Black figures in history or just Black characters.
Oh, absolutely. And I was doing some research. I found there were some children books, but they're mostly like buffoon-like. You know what I mean? When they showed us. So my mother we were in the adult section. So we were reading, The Fire Next Time. We were reading political books. We were reading about revolutions, that kind of thing. The Black Panther, which they did a lot of great things. So I'm not saying that Black Panthers fed the children. They did a lot of things. Those are the kind of books we were reading. So that meant when we got home, we also sometimes need a dictionary or my mother the dictionary because we couldn't read all those words. But here was the interesting thing. Somehow we were reading those books. You start growing, and your vocabulary somehow, I know it's not magic, but it seems kind of weird at, the age we were in elementary school then. We were growing in vocabulary and we were reading so many books that you were falling in love with reading. Back in the day, we weren't looking at television. There was not that kind of technology. So there were times we do our chores and we were rushing to do our chores so we can get to our book. I can remember reading whole books on the weekend. You're like, okay, you have to turn the lights on. One more page, Mom, one more page. Here we are. We don't want to stop reading. Can you let me have one more page? Not one more game, but one more page.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. Through the magic of technology, I'm looking into your office or your home, and as you're speaking, it's obvious that this is such a loving memory for you, and it was such a special time, and I can see that you have so much joy sharing about this experience and about your mom. She must have been a very special woman.
Oh, she was. Even though she was really shy, she was a child herself. You know what I mean? The way I think she was 18 or 19 or so when she had me. And at the end of the day, not at the end of the day, but she had 6 children. Mm-hmm. So we were a huge family. But my mother was always out there with the neighborhood. We were in the house that the neighborhood kids gravitated to. Mm-hmm. To the point that, here is a really good example. My father bought a table tennis for us and we put it in the garage. For us, we remember the family. We would open the garage door and there would be a line of children outside the garage door. And my dad said we had to take turns. So I could play first, but I might be the 7th in line after playing first. How does that work? As a child, you're like, how does this work? No, we share the neighborhood. Or the kids would come over and play jump rope. My mother would play jump rope. She would always have these contests. Who could jump rope the longest, hide and seek, all those games. She was a child, and I see it now as an adult. I didn't see it as a child, that was my mom and everything. But she would be out there playing with us. She'd make ice cream cones. Instead of the ice cream man would come, but she would buy the cones. You could buy cones, and you buy a gallon of ice cream, and you dip it up and put it in the cone. So if we were eating those, a neighborhood child come by, well, yep, come on, you get one. You would get that. And, and back in the day, families did a lot more together. We didn't have the technology and all those things going on. So family dinners, on every day, the whole family sit down and ate dinner. Nobody was going anywhere else. We had family dinners. My father would go around and ask, okay, what did you do today? Or what happened? So you were like, okay, you better prepare an answer because you need to, this question is coming. Or family cookouts. So you don't think about it when you're a child, but I recognize it as an adult that, wow, we did a lot of things, even going to the movies. Because back then we had the theater outside. Do they still have that? I don't know.
Drive-in theater, yeah, there are a few, yep.
Oh, okay. So we would all be in the car at a drive-in theater with a little sound box,
Yep.
The whole family.
Yep, absolutely. Now, did you go with your jammies on to the drive-in theater?
No. We're very serious about which clothes belong in the house. Nowadays people do, but they were really called pajamas, and they meant in the house only. At least that was our mentality.
Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind is that your family, your parents, were very intentional. They had this idea that this is what I want my family to be. This is the way I want my family to interact. I think a lot of parents have unfortunately gotten away from that because of the stress and whatnot. And my kid wants to be on this team, do this activity, and it meets at this time. And boy, I'd love to have a family dinner, but my kid has to go to soccer or whatever. And I have a feeling, just from what you've said, that your parents would have said, well, hey, I'd love for you to be able to play baseball, but if they play baseball at 5:00 on Sunday afternoon, it ain't happening for you.
Exactly. It's kind of like when you tell people you make time. You know what I mean? When I was teaching college, my students would go, and these were adult students, and they would say, well, of course, I know you work 8 hours, you have to go home and take care of your family and all this. So the reasoning was they didn't have time to do their homework. That was the one thing they didn't have time to do. Mm-hmm. And I would say, and then I would change the subject. I would come back. So, tell me, how long do you work? Oh, 8 hours a day. Do you eat during that time? Do you have breakfast? Oh, yes, we had lunch, we ate dinner. Do you spend any time with your friends? I would ask all these questions, and they would, why should I ask a question? I said, so it seems to me you have plenty of blocked time to do your homework. Even if after you leave my class, because the class was over at 9:00 or so, instead of going home and going to bed, why not go home and have a cup of tea and do your homework then? Mm-hmm. Or do some of it. So I started training them to do a little bit. You don't have to do the whole an hour, or do 15 minutes each day, do 5 minutes. So I found myself the first week of school, I was teaching them how to manage their time. Because we all have the same time. You know this story. When I have friends, oh, I don't have time. I said, well, what did you do? Why don't you have time? Are you breathing right now? We all have the same time. And I'm not minimizing all the things, but we do really make time when you want to. I always say, well, if I gave you $1 million, would you get your homework done? And they're like, yes. Oh, wait a minute. So I need to give you $1 million to do your homework.
Yeah. Well, I hope that parents will start, and I have a feeling it's going to get there, because I see more and more parents are saying no to technology and delaying kids getting as much screen time. And hopefully that's going to translate into parents sitting down and saying, what else is important to us? Let's do the family dinner. Let's make sure we spend 20 minutes a night reading together, or just being in the same room reading together. Because I think that is so very valuable. It's important that you hear the expression, it takes a village to raise a kid, but it mostly takes parents who are there, and teaching kids the values that are important to them.
Exactly. And let's talk about modeling, right? I will look out, and we're not talking about all parents. I'm just talking about some parents. And I see a parent walking with their cell phone and their child in their hand. I'm like, this is the perfect time not to have your cell phone and to chat with your child. Mm-hmm. I was at the playground the other day. I love being around kids because I think I'm a kid myself. But the parent was on his cell phone on the stoop, and the child was running around. I spent time watching the child because I was scared because, the bushes of this. So I said, wait a minute, how does this work? I'm watching the child and he's on the phone. Mm-hmm. So my thought is, if you have time to walk with your child, then this is the time you have time to put your phone away.
Yeah.
That's my point. And I'm never talking about all parents. I don't want to get.
Oh, no. No, you're right. I've seen the same thing, and I've seen too often in a restaurant, and it's like, here, kid, watch the screen, so you're not disruptive. Instead of, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation.
And children want to have conversation.
Absolutely.
I meet kids, I meet kids like in my neighborhood that I don't really know, you know what I mean, so to speak. And they'll say, I'll say, hi, how are you? And believe me, they want to tell me how they are. And then I'll say, well, what did you do today? And they want to tell me that. The other day, there was a little guy out kicking the ball for soccer or whatever. And so I'm at that age, and I saw that he was by himself, but I noticed he kept looking at the window. So I thought maybe one of his parents were watching out the window. So I just said, kick it to me. So for about 5 or 10 minutes, that's about as long as I could last. I kicked the ball back and forth with him. We weren't saying anything. We were just kicking the ball back and forth because I don't think I live in a very integrated neighborhood with regards to different cultures. So I don't think he spoke English, but we didn't need to speak any language. We were just kicking the ball back and forth, and he was laughing and whatever because I was missing all the balls. So I'd have to go run. No problem, one day. But just that part, you know what I mean? That if you're with your child, and this is not a time, you're not at work or whatever, then you have to choose your child over the phone. And we just have to. I mean, because that is a human being right there. And that's why, and then we can have conversations. Children, here's the funny thing. I did a Zoom call for the children. It was, for books, but they were coming from, it was a homeschooling. So they were coming from different schools, and that's different homes on the Zoom call. So we see all these little squares. Here is what happened. So my goal was, the plan was I was going to read my book and, that kind of thing. But first, they wanted to ask questions. They wanted to ask questions to me as an author. They wanted to tell me what they're doing. For an hour, I said, okay, let go. To myself, they don't want to know about this book right now. They want to share with me. So it was wonderful. I spent an hour, they would raise their hands and they wanted to tell me this and what they read and what they were doing in the classroom. And I said, oh my gosh, they're just starving for conversation right here. And one boy says, can I have a library? I said, yeah, you absolutely can. Start building it one book at a time. I said, even if your parents allow you could have books in your room and maybe some of your friends can come and check it out or you can trade books, that kind of thing. But they were asking me really good questions, well, how do you get your book published? Oh, I said, okay. So maybe to read books. And that's when I started thinking, now when I do a book event, let's do something besides just reading the book. So, so now I do this thing where they write their own picture books. I call it like a picture book biography. And so I make these little books out of construction paper. It's just white paper in the, inside and like purple, different color and outside, staple it together, not more than 10 pages. And I lead them to it. And I said, well, first of all, you don't have to do the cover. Let's let the cover go for last. Well, we're going to do a biography about a friend or family member because that's the easiest way. Somebody that you choose that person. And then some people say, well, I can't draw. I said, that's okay. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to ask you questions. So the one question might be is, who is your favorite person and what is it that you like most about them? So you can write that on the page or you can draw that on the page. So I go through these series of questions and I said, and listen, I can't draw either, so I have an illustrator. So if some of you can draw better and some of you can write better, then you can help each other out. The magic. I mean, I was like, I'm in a Zoom call, but I was like, look what's happening. They would ask me, I can draw that for you. And at the end we only did it for 20 minutes. I said, we're not going to finish with me. You can finish at home. But the teachers were saying, look what they did. I mean, it was amazing. They were saying, my friend likes fruit, or we play in the playground together. Her name is so-and-so. And they were showing me that this person had drawn the picture for them. That person said they could write the words for them. So I was like, okay, we'll do this more often. But then I said, this really is my competition right here. Because how kids are. It's like, I would have never thought about saying that. Or even, asking that question.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that is, we've had a lot of authors come on the show, and then when they hear that I performed in schools for 35 years, they ask me, well, I'm going to do some school visits. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to get in front of the auditorium, sit down in a chair and read my book. And I'm like, well, I don't know how that's going to go, but yeah, I did a lot of inner city schools and That would not have flown. I don't know any school would have flown at, but that definitely not in the schools I performed at. But it reminds me there's an adage that, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. And, as an author, getting to know you and getting to like you and trust because you're listening to them and answering their questions and showing them respect. I think that's the best way to market a book, is just to, let people get to know you and want to hear more of your voice through your books.
And it's more fun for me too.
Amen. I never got the hang of doing the book. Okay, now I know. I could never read like.
I know. Even when I was doing the preschool thing, I got certified to teach yoga for adults. And then I realized I didn't want to teach yoga adults. So then I went back, got certified to teach the children, right? Okay. And so I worked with the program before COVID, things got kind of closed down. And so we would go to, you're a volunteer and you would go to different schools, how they bring people in after school. And so the interesting thing, the school that I went to, the children would be in one room and then you go pick up your class and you could take them to a classroom, right? So this little girl came up to me, and this was like an inner city school, and she says, well, what are you going to teach today? I said, we are going to do yoga, and yoga is going to help you to relax and be calm. She goes, I don't want to be calm. And that was my first lesson. And I said, oh, well, we're going to do exciting things. And I literally changed how I taught yoga. It was no longer like that. I would create stories like, reach up and touch the moon. And then when you would go down, like downward facing dog, smell the flowers. I create a story around every pose. And then we'd have an activity. We were allowed to have like a 10-minute activity. And I would always bring a book for that activity. And we would sit around the floor, and I put the book in the middle, and I would read to them. But I would say, what do you think is going to happen on the next page? And we talk about it. That, when I would do that at the end of the book, and I said, okay, and close it, they said, let's do it again. I said, well, I have to go back to yoga if it's okay. But it was always about interaction, it was always, I think it's about them being seen. I see you, you know what I mean? It's about them being seen. Wow. One little girl told me one time, she was really happy that day. And I said, what is it? What's going on? She says, today is the day that once a week, I get to color with my mama. That's exactly what she said. I said, wow, that's wonderful. That was her heart, was that her mother would, on that specific time, they would get to color together.
Wonderful. And it just, you're reinforcing the reason I started this podcast back in 2017. It was because I knew that the relationship I have with my now adult kids, which is very, very strong and very close, was built on a foundation of reading together. And that led to cooking together and throwing the ball around together and watching TV together and going to movies together. And that's the most important thing in my life. The greatest accomplishment that I can look to is that I got two kids that are happy and contributing to their communities.
Congratulations. I mean, I see that when I read everything about your podcast and listening to your podcast. I feel like I'm your friend already before I even met you.
Well, we are buddies. This is great.
Yeah, because there's a joke that says, if you go into somebody's house and there are no books, get out fast. Isn't it funny?
I love it. Well, speaking of books, we should tell everybody about your first book, because you're very proud of that first book that you wrote.
Yes, it's Chef Edna, Queen of Southern Cooking. And how I started this book is about an African-American woman who, she was raised on a farm, and she ended up, when she was like 15 or 16, going to New York, and she ended up becoming a top chef, not a world renowned, but a renowned chef, especially in the cooking world. But most people have not heard of her. She's even on a poster stamp at that time. She's not living now. So I said to myself, I want to write 12 picture book biographies of lesser known African Americans. And then I had to say, well, where are you going to find them? So I Googled lesser known African Americans. You can get anything. And I chose her first because her smile and how she's just a beautiful woman. And then I read her story, and it was like, oh my goodness. she was a chef, but I learned things that I would have never thought about. She taught us that, or during back then, when you wanted to find out if a cake was done, we would stick a straw in it or something. You just pull it out and listen, and it'll be bubbling if it's not done because the liquid's in there. And I've done it, and I said, oh my goodness, it's the most fun thing. And one of the parents, when I did a book talk on that, she sent me a picture of her child when she took the cake out, leaning over, listening for the sound. I mean, my heart, I just wanted to cry. I said, oh my God, that's what she was doing. She was listening for that sound. So there are little tidbits in that, and it is a biography. Mm-hmm. And that's my goal, 12 biographies. So I have like 3 more that I've written. The one thing about being an author is that after you finish a book, you're back into rejection mode. Mm-hmm. Until maybe you hit that magic spot that some people hit where somebody says, oh yes, I want your next book. So I'm back in that, but I've already written the other 3 biographies. Right. And so as soon as I can find the publisher, I'm sending it out, I'm getting rejection. And I'm also trying to find an agent because most agents don't want just, in my research, I find they don't want just authors. They need author illustrator for picture book. Uh-huh. So I'm lost in that way because I'm an author. I'm not an author/illustrator. Right. So I get rejected on that part. And so I negotiated my first 2 books on my own, which is a lot of work. I had to learn about contracts. I had to do research, and I'm a self-taught picture book author. Mm-hmm. So the same thing. We're talking about reading books. I would go to the library and just sit in, if people don't know, there's a section where they just put the new books before they put them on the shelves. And they say new books, and I pull up a chair right there in front of those new books. And I would just pick and pull that one. And I would stack them on the floor because that's what we do in the old, we just stack them on the floor. Oh my God. Nobody ever said anything until one time the head librarian came over and said, what are you doing? Because all the books were spread on the floor. I said, I'm just pulling the book. She says, well, can you do better? She stacked them all up, brought a chair beside me and stacked them in the chair. I said, oh, okay, I never thought of that. Just pulling them aside, because I know when kids get the books home, they're not like on a nice little chair. They're everywhere, right? They're everywhere. Yeah. So that's what I would do. I would fill up 2 bags and read all the pictures, but pull them out. But like you made me think of this when we're talking about books for children of color. When I go to the libraries now, even I do it, and it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. When I look on the top shelf, you know how they show the book cover on the top shelf. They're not pulling out. They're just trying to showcase different books. And I look and I see no books, rarely, with children of color on it. Not necessarily African American. We can talk about Latino. We can talk about Native American. So I make it my job. You know what I'm going to say, right? Yeah. To pull the books. And before I leave that library, they will be mixed in those books with children of color all through. I don't know if they notice the magic of that, but that is one of my first things to do. And I always look to see if the librarian is looking, and I'm putting that up so that children can see. The thing is, for Latino books or Spanish books, they have a section that says Spanish books because it's in Spanish. And one time I asked her about that, not necessarily that I wanted a section that has to be African American, but we don't have that many. We're starting to get more. So if they're interspersed with all the other books, how do you find them? If you don't know authors or whatever, you don't find them. Mm-hmm. I do because I'm going to stand there and do my thing. Especially new books when they come out, I'm going to get them right away. But otherwise, I'm pulling. And that doesn't mean I'm not reading the other kinds of books, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm reading books by Black authors. And what my mother did with us reading those books is that after reading all those Black books, I started reading other kinds of books. By the time I was getting to junior high and high, I was reading science fiction. Oh my God, everything. Like Fahrenheit 451. I mean, is that not happening now? Except they're not burning the books, but they're still doing the banning of the books. I was heavy into science fiction. I was heavy into romance. I was reading and am seeing all kinds of books. So it didn't mean I stayed in that section. Is that it kind of blossomed, and then you want to know everything about everything. I'm one of those people that lean in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's, hopefully that's something that the parents listening to the show is going to do with their kids to help the kids become lifelong learners and lovers of learning. So we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Mama's library summers and find out more about you.
Yeah, Mama's Library Summers and both Chef Edna are in nearly every bookstore, or they'll order it for you. Is it Amazon online? Because they've won a couple of awards. I won't be remembering them, but they both won some awards in there, you know. So they're in the libraries. And if your book is not in the library that you want, some people might not know that, you can go to the library and fill out a form and request that book come to the library. Most times you will get it. Yep. Most times you'll get it. In terms of finding me, if you go on Instagram, I'm working on websites right now, one for my book, and I'm also an abstract artist, so I'm not an illustrator, so I paint abstract. So I'm working on building a website for that. But if you go to Melvina, M as in mother, E-L-V as in victory, I-N-A, Melvina, because it's named after my father, who was Melvin. A boy didn't come, a girl did, so let's tack an A on it. Write, W-R-I-T-E, like I'm writing something. The number 4 and the letter U. So it's Melvina Write for You. And that's on Instagram. And so you can DM me if you want, or, you know, whatever you want to do.
Wonderful. We've had a really fun time speaking to the author of Mama's Library Summers. It's a new picture book from our guest, Dr. Melvina Noel. Dr. Melvina, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
And thank you for having me. It's so nice meeting you.
Thanks for joining us for this special episode of Reading with Your Kids. Hey, if you're an author with a fantastic children's book, we'd love to hear from you. Visit readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Authors Click Here button to learn how you can be a guest here on the show and tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your fantastic children's book. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with your friends, leave a 5-star review, and subscribe. It really helps us grow. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our amazing guest, Ziggy Marley. Please be sure to check out Pajammin. I also want to thank Dr. Melvina Noel. Please be sure to check out Mama's Library Summers. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Dante Greco, L. Glassman. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make a child's life a little bit better by reading together. Remember, you're helping to shape a kinder, smarter world every time you read with your kids.